state capitol. To our guests, I would like to give you a warm, beautiful Kentucky welcome on a fabulous sunsplash day. At this time, it is my high pleasure to introduce my very dear friend and an exceptionally fabulous individual, Attorney General Daniel Cameron.
Thank you all. Thank you all. Thank you. Well, thank you, Brian, for that kind introduction. And I know you have your family here. And as uh, Brian noted, we are honored to those of you all that are guests here in the Commonwealth. We're honored to have you here in Kentucky and obviously see so many familiar faces as well as traveling as far as Owensboro to be with us. I appreciate you, Sheriff, for being here today. And again, so many of you all that are in attendance and certainly grateful for this opportunity today to talk about what Brian and the commission have done. Several of our members of the commission are here today and appreciate you all immensely. And you all have achieved a lot in a short period of time. And we appreciate you and are grateful for your service. I want to thank you for reminding us of what can be accomplished when we break down silos, when we ultimately decide to disregard partisan labels and work together for the benefit of every Kentuckian. And I want to say that we're fortunate as well to be joined by fellow Kentuckian and Medal of Honor winner Dakota Meyer. And retired Lieutenant General Martin Steele. Many of our members of the United States military. Martin, thank you for your service. Is Dakota here with us? Okay. All right. Well, Dakota has been instrumental in this conversation, was a part of a earlier conversation we had as well, but do just want to say thank you to him. Last month, as many of you all know, we received the Commonwealth's initial report of overdose deaths from 2022. The good news is that overdose deaths were down 5%. The bad news is that we still lost 2,127 Kentuckians to overdose, and those are just the preliminary numbers. The even worse news is that overdose deaths are up 60% since 2019. That's up 60% in just 3 years. In fact, that same report indicates that since 2019, we have lost 7,665 Kentuckians to overdose. That's more than 1/4 the population of Frankfort. We know that opioids typically account for 90% of these deaths. Now, statistics like these are hard to hear, and they should alarm us. These statistics illustrate the depth and the breadth of the epidemic that is wrecking our families, friends, and neighborhoods. But while figures and percentages help paint the picture of our opioid crisis, we must be careful to avoid disassociating the numbers from the lives that they represent. Each overdose death signifies much more than a mere number on a page, more than a dot on a map. Every loss was someone's son or daughter, father or mother, friend or neighbor. God made each one of these individuals in his own image. He loved them. He had plans for their lives, a plan that did not include addiction. My friends, we cannot continue to lose over 2,000 Kentuckians each year. We cannot continue to accept a 60% increase in overdose deaths since 2019. We cannot continue to accept the damage to those left behind, the families that are heartbroken, the children that are orphaned, and communities that are devastated. This is why the Attorney General's office has prioritized the opioid epidemic here in Kentucky over these last several years. In the last 3 years, my office has held accountable the companies that helped create and exacerbate Kentucky's drug problem. We have relentlessly pursued lawsuits against those that targeted our communities with a flood of opioid drugs. Now, these companies have earned billions of dollars in annual revenue and routinely rank among America's largest corporations. But our office did not back down. We did not waver. In just 3 years, we've secured from those entities nearly $900 million to combat this opioid epidemic here in the Commonwealth. And nearly $900 million in settlement money will help jumpstart our recovery. Now, the General Assembly helped set aside a lot of that money for the commission. And with that money, we should certainly continue to fund projects that we know will work. And in fact, we just recently, the commission distributed roughly $8 million of that money to help with some of those programs and projects that exist currently. And we know that those projects are going to help bring some level of hope and healing to our 120 counties. The Commonwealth's world-class treatment facilities and world-class healthcare providers have produced successes that have been exhibited over several decades. And we are grateful for them. And our overdose numbers indicate, however, that we've got more work to do. There's always more that continues to need to be done. And something has to change. Obviously, we need to continue to fund the work that has been ongoing in Kentucky, but we also need to explore a new approach. We have to imagine new possibilities. We have to invest in programs and potential solutions for tomorrow. And what can we explore? What can we do? And what can we learn from that might multiply the impact of our nearly $900 million? There's no doubt in my mind and the folks that are seated behind me that such opportunities exist, and you're gathered here today to discuss one of them. Now, I won't go too far into the details. I'll leave that for Brian and others that are on this stage to talk about. But instead, I simply wish to say that I look forward to the Commission's exploration of possibilities. I hope that the Commission will seek and find the next big breakthrough, that its members will initiate the investigation and dialogue necessary to make Kentucky a leader in the 21st century opioid treatment. And not just treatment, but also healing. Now, I want to conclude now with what opportunity this symbolizes. Today's event is graced by the presence of many military veterans. Of course, Memorial Day was earlier this week, and we reflected and remembered those who gave that, as President Lincoln said, that last full measure. But I want to also thank these heroes that are on this stage with me today, and those that are in attendance. We're forever grateful for your service. And I know some of these heroes that are here with us, amongst us today, have earned accolades for valor that went above and beyond the call of duty. All have served and all are heroes. And sometimes I think collectively we think of what drives an individual to put it all on the line for this nation. What drives a man or woman to enlist in such service? What makes them volunteer for incredible feats of danger and situations that, again, put their lives at risk and put them at jeopardy? What makes them, simply put, volunteer for war? And I'm sure that there are several factors that these heroes can attest to But I would dare say that one of those factors is something that, in many ways, is a part of the fabric of America, is a part of our identity. We all know what that is. It's to leave this world a better place than we found it. And we owe current victims of the opioid crisis any and all treatments that are available in every resource that we can provide. And if we intend to make sure that that principle, that core that is a part of our American identity moves forward, that we leave this country better than we found it, then we owe it to every person that is struggling with addiction. We owe them the chance for a better and brighter future. You and I together can make sure that that future is a reality. And I look forward to hearing what the commission can do to make sure that for generations to come, Kentucky is not plagued by the opioid epidemic. I know that's what you all want as well. So let's together explore every opportunity, every option that is on the table, and invest in whatever we can to attain that dream of a Kentucky and, frankly, a country that is not addicted to opioids. I want to thank you all so much for being willing to give of your time today, to be here from far and wide from across this Commonwealth and from across this country to be with us here today. God bless you. God bless Kentucky, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
General Cameron, thank you for your kind words and for the humbling opportunity to serve Kentucky as chairman of this commission. In 1996, Purdue Pharma detonated OxyContin in eastern Kentucky. 27 years later, we are witnessing generational devastation unfold in real time because of that seminal event. Since September of last year, our commission has conducted 12 town halls across the state, from Pikeville to Paducah. We wanted to hear from our fellow Kentuckians what they have lived, lost, and overcome in the midst of this engineered catastrophe. These town halls were followed by 8 Operation Fight Fentanyl forums, which were led by Attorney General Cameron. Having listened to our people pour out their deepest despairs and their highest hopes, our priorities are clear. First, we must establish and maintain confidence in the Commission's work by being accessible, transparent, and accountable for how we use money that was bought with the lives of our people. Second, over the next 17 years, which is the remaining life of this commission, we must develop a child-centered prevention infrastructure, which gives children whose communities and families have been ravaged by this scourge sanctuary, stability, and exposure to spirituality, which affirms their divinity as well as the special value and purpose their lives have because of it. Third, we have to aggressively remove any and all barriers to individual dignity and freedom for every person who is striving to attain and maintain long-term, lifelong recovery. And last but not least, to search for the discovery of Kentucky's opportunity to pioneer the development of therapeutics which hold breakthrough promise for treatment of the profound neurochemical brain injury caused by opioid dependence. We are here to announce the arrival of Kentucky's breakthrough opportunity. Opioid withdrawal syndrome is the seemingly intractable neurochemical malady which impels repeated relapse, overdose, and death among those struggling to achieve sustained recovery. The consequences of opioid withdrawal syndrome are overwhelming our Commonwealth's government agencies and consuming a staggering amount of financial, medical, judicial, law enforcement, and child welfare resources. Ibogaine is an alkaloid derived from three plant sources found in the West African countries of Gabon, the Congo, the Democratic Republic of Congo, and Cameroon. These plant sources are the iboga root, the Tabernanthe iboga, and the Voquanga africana tree. Anecdotal evidence that is a mountain high and decades wide suggests that ibogaine, within 48 to 72 hours of administration in safe, clinically controlled conditions, resolves opioid withdrawal syndrome. It appears to do so by clearing and resetting the brain's opioid receptors while also restoring the brain's organic dopamine and serotonin production to pre-opioid exposure levels. If this anecdotal evidence can be clinically validated, ibogaine would represent a transformative therapeutic for treatment of opioid use disorder. At this time, it is my high privilege to introduce General Martin Steele. General Steele is a retired three-star general in the United States Marine Corps. He serves on the U.S. Global Leadership Coalition's National Security Advisory Council, served as Vice Chairman of the Board for Veterans Florida, and served on the Veterans Administration's Commission on Care during the Obama administration, having been nominated by Senator Mitch McConnell. General Steele has testified before the United States Congress 3 times about veteran mental health care and suicide prevention. He is the former president and CEO of the Intrepid Sea, Air, Space Museum in New York City, the largest naval museum in the world, and the former associate vice president for veterans research and executive director of military partnerships at the University of South Florida. General Steele is the current CEO of Reason for Hope and leads the Veteran Mental Health Leadership Coalition. At this time, I'd like to welcome General Steele to the podium.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that warm introduction, Mr. Hubbard. And more importantly, thank you and Attorney General Daniel Cameron for your extraordinarily bold leadership in this initiative for the state of Kentucky. As a former enlisted Marine who rose from private to 3-star general, I'm extremely honored and humbled to be here today in the great state of Kentucky, surrounded by these 2 American leaders. As a young captain, I was privileged to attend the U.S. Army Armor Officer Advanced Course at Fort Knox, Kentucky, over 46 years ago. I was not only positively affected by my instructors and the leaders of the school, but also by the wonderful citizens of the Bluegrass State. It was a very special time for me, my wife, now of 56 years, and our children. The bold leadership that I witnessed in 1977 in Kentucky is precisely what we need right now in this great state and what we've heard by the 2 previous speakers. We are in the face of an opioid crisis that for far too long has adversely impacted the citizens of Kentucky and has also been a plague on our great nation, the greatest nation that God ever put on the face of the earth. As many of you know, in 2021, the United States lost over 100,000 lives to overdose, primarily resulting from synthetic opioids, as the two speakers previously stated. The state of Kentucky has been particularly impacted, with an overdose death rate around double the national average. The 2,100, the 700, 7,165, as mentioned. These are truly devastating figures, and we know that all these precious lives lost too soon were not lost in a vacuum. Those losses have a profound and rippling effect, devastating families and tearing our communities apart at the seams. Kentucky and the broader Appalachian region has disproportionately felt this profound pain of addiction and loss and its brutal corresponding rippling effects, as has our veteran community, which suffers from higher rates of substance use disorders and overdoses. In my own recent experience, over the Memorial Day weekend, I honored 39 of my basic school classmates who paid the supreme sacrifice in Vietnam from 1967 through 1970. They were all heroes of mine. We were all very close. We all loved one another. And they paid the supreme sacrifice to preserve our way of life in this country. On Friday, one of my closest comrades at that school took his life by suicide, 56 years after he served our country selflessly in Vietnam. I'm still not over that. I'm still struggling with learning about that over this weekend. I wish there were an easy answer to this seemingly insurmountable problem we have. Unfortunately, there is not. However, I do know that we cannot keep doing the things over and over the same way and expect that we're going to have different results. This is why I am so excited to support Kentucky in this innovative Ibogaine research initiative. It's second to none. The existing clinical research and the growing body of personal anecdotes suggest that Ibogaine, when used with careful medical screening, treatment protocols, and oversight, has incredible promise for treating veterans and all others struggling with opioid addiction. While Ibogaine may not be the right option for everyone, for the many people out there who have not benefited from currently available treatments, and that is so many people in our country, this initiative should provide a reason for hope. A reason for hope that a new option is on the horizon to help those suffering from opioid use disorder to find a healing within our borders in this country. I'm honored to be here today with some individuals representing this hope, who will share their stories of the tragedy and pain, both physical and emotional, that led to their opioid use and their addictions, and who will ultimately share their stories of triumph and healing after they were able to personally access Ibogaine treatment abroad. This includes Bobby Laughlin, Perea Zandi, as well as Tommy Aceto and Marcus Capone. We have special operators, we have mainstream, we have people that never served. While it is unconscionable that these individuals, or any others for that matter, were forced to go abroad for potentially life-saving treatment, they are the lucky ones, as not everyone has the means and the ability to go this route. This needs to stop, and Kentucky can lead the way in the future in our country. Our final speaker from our team, my colleague and friend, Susan Osterman, will share her story that represents the other side of the coin due to the inability to travel abroad. Her story is a truly heartbreaking story and tragic example of a mother's loss that exposes the flaws of the current system we have in our country. Finally, I'd like to acknowledge and thank my colleagues at Reason for Hope and the Veteran Mental Health Leadership Coalition, many of whom who are here today, who have worked tirelessly behind the scenes and are here to support this initiative, despite not speaking at today's press conference. They include my co-founder of Reason for Hope, Mr. Brett Waters from New York City, who lost his mother to suicide, along with Jesse McLaughlin, Ryan Roberts, and Tim Jensen. And our co-founder and chief science officer, Dr. Lynette Averill of the Baylor College of Medicine, who is currently in Australia and not able to be with us today. You will get to hear from our partner, Adam Marr, who will tell the story of a former Army Sniper Staff Sergeant, Brent Bretz, who is ill and not able to be with us today. I want to thank you for your time, Kentucky. I want to thank you for being who you are as you deal with this crisis, as you lead the way for our nation to change the whole cycle of death. I want to turn it back over to Brian, who can formally introduce Adam at this time. I want to say, God bless you all. God bless you all for being involved in this. This is a very special journey that it's going to take all of us to be successful in the greatest country on earth. God bless you, and God bless America. Thank you very much.
The next speaker I have the privilege of introducing is Mr. Adam Marr. Adam is a former Army captain and Apache helicopter pilot. He is the co-founder of Warrior Angels Foundation and the Director of Operations for the Veterans Mental Health Leadership Coalition. Today, Adam will be sharing the story of former Army sniper, Brent Bretz. Adam.
Good morning, and thank you, Attorney General Cameron and Mr. Brian Hubbard, for your incredible leadership when Kentucky and this nation need it most. My name is Adam Marr, and I'm honored to be here with you today. As General Steele mentioned, Staff Sergeant Brent Bretz was scheduled to share his powerful story of healing with you today, but has become ill and could not be here as planned. When I talked to him yesterday, he was absolutely devastated that he wasn't able to attend and be here today after everything that he's been through and what this meant to him. With that being said, and with Brent's permission, it's my privilege to honor Staff Sergeant Bretz today and share his remarkable journey with you now. Staff Sergeant Brent Bretz is a retired Army sniper who began military service in October 2000. He later deployed to Iraq in October of 2004 with the Stryker Brigade Combat Team. On December 19th, 2004, his life changed forever as he and his team ran over an IED outside of the city of Mosul, and Staff Sergeant Bretz sustained numerous injuries. He lost both of his legs instantly and suffered a TBI that required constant monitoring as a result of bleeding on the right side of the brain. He had a compound fracture of the left humerus, second and third degree burns. He fractured a few of his vertebrae and broke both his thumbs. He ended up with 2 chest tubes and 2 feeding tubes. His injuries also produced infections that required surgery after surgery after surgery. During that time, Staff Sergeant Bretz received a lot of medications to manage the infections, anxiety, and most of all, the pain. He was on a heavy regimen of opiates, which were administered either via IV or by feeding tube at the time because he was not able to take oral medication. This continued for months as the surgeries and washouts continued throughout his recovery process. Staff Sergeant Bretz ended up finding great comfort at that time to how the pain-killing medication not only helped numb the physical pain, but the mental pain he was experiencing as well. Part of that mental pain was wondering how his daughter, who was 3 years old at the time, would view her dad, who used to play tag in the backyard and chase her around the house. There was so much for him to process with the new reality of his new life settling in. The opiates helped to quell the emotional pain that came with all these changes. Fast forward several years later, and many pain management doctors and many prescriptions later, Staff Sergeant Bretz had crossed the bridge from being dependent on opiates to function to being addicted. He could not go a single day without thinking about these opiates and how they controlled his life. He was a slave to opening a bottle every 6 hours. And if he refused to give in, then it was only a matter of time until the sickness that came with withdrawal kicked in and the voices in the back of his head would remind him of all the reasons to give in to these cravings. And he had plenty of reasons. He ended up getting to the point where what the doctors prescribed just weren't enough. And to make a long and ugly story short, in his words, led him down a darker path to heroin. Staff Sergeant Bretz used heroin when the opiates weren't enough, or he took more than he was prescribed to fill the gaps to get him through the month. After several rehabs and detox facilities along his journey, he heard the repeated mantra of once an addict, always an addict. And he was constantly reminded that there was no escaping these cravings for opiates and that he would have to deal with them for the rest of his life. Hearing this from a medical professional, as you might imagine, and the many other addicts who had years of sobriety was a most defeating message. To be told he would never beat this destroyed any hope that one could have to somewhat gain a normal life again. Well, thank goodness for Dr. Martin and his team at the Mission Within. Staff Sergeant Bretz had an amazing experience of working with this team in Mexico to do work with Ibogaine and 5-MeO DMT. And for Staff Sergeant Bretz, the results have been beyond amazing. After an experience that he has difficulty putting into words, he now has zero cravings for opiates, heroin, or any other medication. He has been able to not only reclaim his life, but to also change his course to be able to help other veterans struggling. Staff Sergeant Bretz is now the president of the Patriot Project Foundation, which is a nonprofit looking to build transitional housing for homeless veterans using a tiny home model and using the resources available to help these veterans find healing in their own lives. He is more present as a father and member of his community. This is life-changing medicine we're talking about here, and he's living proof of that. Staff Sergeant Bretz wanted me to make sure and thank the Mission Within and their team. Attorney General Cameron and Mr. Brian Hubbard for their outstanding leadership. And lastly, the Veteran Mental Health Leadership Coalition for leading this advocacy effort. This medicine helped change his life's trajectory for the better and now allows him to share his story, which he hopes will lead Kentucky decision makers to consider Ibogaine for treatment to help with those that suffer from opiate and alcohol addiction, PTSD, and all the other amazing things that this plant medicine is capable of doing to those that suffer. On behalf of Staff Sergeant Brent Bretz and myself, thank you.
The next speaker I have the opportunity of introducing is Mr. Bobby Laughlin. Bobby grew up in the gym as a competitive gymnast from ages 2 through 16. He is now the CEO of New Course Enterprise, an investment firm which, since its founding, has helped to create hundreds of jobs. He and his wife are happily married with 2 beautiful children. Please welcome Mr. Bobby Laughlin.
Good morning. I think it's the morning. My name is Bobby Laughlin. I'm deeply honored to be here with you all today. Let me first start by thanking the champions of this historic movement, Attorney General Cameron, Mr. Hubbard, General Steele, Brett Waters, Adam Marr, and everyone at the Veterans Mental Health Leadership Coalition. Your open-mindedness and willingness to chart a new course is the foundation for change. Kentuckians should be proud of their representatives as they take bold steps to open up ibogaine treatment for those in need. I grew up middle class, 2 loving parents, and an older brother. I was an accomplished athlete, a high-achieving student. I had dreams, friends, ambitions, drive, passion, and a willingness to work hard for things I wanted. These same characteristics were possessed by so many who have fallen victim to what I consider one of the most brutal and cunning enemies the United States has ever faced, the opiate epidemic. I was first introduced to opiates by a doctor who prescribed them after a minor surgery in 2010. Within 2 years, the vicious grip of addiction squeezed everything positive out of my life and left me spiritually bankrupt on death's door as an intravenous heroin user. I lost respect for myself, the trust of my family, the drive to pursue my dreams, the ability to be a productive member of society. For years, I woke up with the firm resolution that today was the last day and now it's time to get and to stay sober, but was repeatedly overpowered by the addiction. I had tried traditional inpatient and outpatient treatment centers, but was unable to achieve long-term sobriety. I was using against my own will, seemingly trapped in a cycle that would invariably lead to jail or death. I stand before you today as someone who over 10 years ago, on January 15th, 2013, received ibogaine treatment under the care of medical professionals in response to this life-threatening addiction. I have been sober ever since. One of the key reasons for my survival was that I had knowledge of and access to ibogaine treatment, albeit rather inconvenient access, as I was required to leave the United States for treatment. The key, though, was access. I believe large-scale ibogaine treatment for opiate addiction will be an integral part of what helps win this battle. While ibogaine is not a magic bullet, it did have 4 intrinsically unique effects on me, which make it particularly powerful, specifically with respect to opiate addiction treatment. Number 1, it substantially minimized the physiological feeling of opiate withdrawal. Number 2, it removed the mental compulsion to use opiates. Number 3, it induced a spiritual experience which reinstated compassion and love for myself. And number 4, it is not a habit-forming medicine, and it only needs to be used once. The confluence of these effects removed the friction to implement a new life. It provided a way out, which I took full advantage of. My journey of recovery did not stop after ibogaine. I immediately integrated myself into a recovery community, which I also feel is paramount to maintaining my sobriety. Today, I have a life that I'm proud of. I have a wonderful wife, 2 beautiful children. I founded my own business, which has grown to create hundreds of jobs. I follow the rules. I pay my taxes. I have a healthy lifestyle, or at least I try to. And I also try to be available to my community when I have the opportunity to be of service. I feel I've shifted from a liability to an asset. I know that there are hundreds of thousands who, like me, have the ability to reclaim their lives using ibogaine as a tool for change. I'm hopeful that if people who have the desire to emerge victorious from their battle with addiction or provided access to ibogaine, lives will be saved, wrongs will be righted, families will be united and started, and dreams will once again be pursued. Let us go forward knowing that while we do face a tough battle with opiate addiction and the epidemic, we can and will win so long as we keep an open mind, follow the evidence wherever it goes, and push forward boldly. Thank you.
The next speaker I have the privilege of introducing is Tommy Aceto. Tommy is a former Navy SEAL of 16 years. He was a Special Forces medic and intelligence officer with deployments to Iraq, Afghanistan, Africa, and Southeast Asia. He is currently finishing his master's degree and is married to the love of his life. Tommy.
Good morning. Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Hubert, for this opportunity. I'd like to also thank General Steele, the Veteran Mental Health Leadership Coalition, for their incredible advocacy work. It's an honor to be a part of this unprecedented time in Kentucky history. My name is Tommy Aceto, and I did serve as a Navy SEAL for 16 years. As a Special Forces medic, I saw my fair share of trauma. Although I was a shooter first, I was also a healer. The worst part was looking into the eyes of the innocent children who were casualties of war and then having to treat them on target. No matter how terrible I felt, I never could really talk about it. It would be seen as weak and maybe question my operational readiness. I was programmed through my training to never fail, to never quit. I became a master of numbing. Like many service members, I numb myself with opiates and alcohol. Deployment after deployment, year after year. In 2016, I was diagnosed with PTSD, multiple TBIs that would lead to my medical separation from the Navy, and I was terrified of getting out. I didn't know who I was without my trident, and it had become my identity. I didn't know who I was underneath the mask I call the ego. After I was honorably discharged from the military, I reached rock bottom. My opioid dependency soon felt like it completely controlled my life. I lost my career, my family, and I began having frequent suicidal thoughts due to the prescribed SSRIs. I thought more and more about ending it all. I had reached rock bottom. I called one of my buds classmates who connected me with the Mission Within, a clinic in Mexico, to receive ibogaine treatment in 2019. Several of my classmates shared their experience and said ibogaine was a game changer. And they told me to simply go into what the medicine was trying to show me with gentle curiosity. I knew that if I didn't try something new, I wouldn't be around much longer. Ibogaine showed me how to feel the separation between my body and my soul, my mind. It was a beautiful experience that I'll never forget. Being in a cohort of warriors who I trusted reminded me that veterans heal veterans. I felt safe letting go of my addictions and my past traumas.
I felt safe to feel again. Ibogaine showed me that I had everything I needed to heal within me. I was no longer my past. I wasn't worried about the future. I was content on simply being who I am. It was as if the fear that was holding up my ego was gone. I felt at peace. And with a new lease on life, I've finishing my master's degree in film and writing directing from the University, the Academy of Art. I'm married to the love of my life, who is very jealous of me being in this incredible horse country right now, by the way. I found purpose and passion helping others heal from addictions and teaching others how to reprogram their mind. I believe that all citizens of the Commonwealth of Kentucky who are suffering from an opioid addiction have the God-given right to have access to this life-saving medicine like Ibogaine. You shouldn't have to be a Navy SEAL to access this medicine. The veterans shouldn't have to leave the country we serve to receive these powerful treatments. Lastly, I want to say have hope. Hope that you can heal from addictions. Hope that you can recreate your life. I'm living proof. Thank you.
The next speaker I am pleased to introduce is Priya Zandi. Priya is a licensed marriage and family therapist who specializes in the treatment of adolescents and adults with emotion regulation and relational issues, co-occurring disorders, and trauma. She received her bachelor's in psychology from the University of California, Irvine, and a master's in clinical psychology from Antioch University in Los Angeles. At this time, I'd like to welcome Priya Zandi.
Gonna bring this way down. Thank you so much. This is honestly such an honor. It's one of the highlights of my life. Thank you to the Veterans Mental Health Leadership Coalition, Adam, the Attorney General, the Opioid Commissioner. My name is Priya Zandi, and I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist in Los Angeles. I specialize in treating PTSD and childhood trauma. It is such an honor for me to be standing here today, because if you would have told me 10 years ago that I would be doing anything like this, I would not have believed you. I would have thought you were crazy. My addiction, I think like many people, was stemming from childhood trauma, abandonment, and deep, deep wounds that I did not comprehend. In many ways, I did come from a very loving, supportive, educated family. And despite a certain level of privilege, the addiction still got me. I tried everything. I tried 12 steps. I tried rehab. I tried detox multiple times. Nothing seemed to work. I really was hopeless. I didn't think I was going to make it past the age of 27. The worst part is what it did to my mom. She was hopeless too. I believe that it was a divine intervention that led me to Ibogaine. I was visiting my father, who I had been estranged from for many years, in Vancouver, Canada, and I had overdosed again up there while I was visiting him. And he took me to this doctor, and I told her my story, and I told her, just let me die. This is where I'm going. Just let me die. And she looked at me and she said, you really don't need to. She said, I knew a girl just like you, and she did this treatment called Ibogaine. And it's a psychoactive plant substance from Africa that can help you with your heroin addiction. And I looked at her and I was like, Iba, what? Like, I had no idea what she was talking about. I thought it was too good to be true. But at this point, my mom, my family, me, we were desperate. I have some uncles who are doctors and scientists in my family, and I had them research into ibogaine a little bit. And once they did, they said, you know what? Go for it. Try it. We've tried everything else. My family was fortunate enough to have the resources to send me to Mexico where I could get this life-saving treatment. I can confidently tell you today that I do not believe that I would be alive standing here today if it weren't for this treatment. I consider my life pre-ibogaine and post-ibogaine. Ibogaine allowed me a window of opportunity to get clean, to be relieved of the physical cravings, the withdrawal. But even more than that, it provided me with a profound spiritual and psychologically healing experience that continues to be alive in me today. The best way I could explain it is that ibogaine gave me a fresh pair of eyes with which to see the world and to see myself. And today I'm able to spend my life being of service to those who are suffering, being useful to society, and helping others heal from their trauma and their addictions as a therapist. Thank you to the brave veterans who are the ones leading the charge in this innovative treatment and bringing awareness to it. If my story can help inspire that in any way, that is what I am here for. It should not have to be a miracle to be able to receive this treatment. In our country, where the opiate epidemic is killing our men, women, and children and destroying families, we should not have to leave the country to be able to receive this treatment. Thank you.
I am pleased to now introduce to you Marcus Capone. Marcus is a retired U.S. Navy SEAL, serving 13 years and completing 6 combat tours to both Iraq and Afghanistan. Marcus is the chairman and co founder of VETS, which stands for Veterans Exploring Treatment Solutions, a 501c3 charitable organization that provides resources, research, and advocacy for U.S. Special Operations veterans seeking alternative mental health treatments. And he is also the founder and CEO of Terra Mind. Marcus.
Right, I got to put this up for me. First off, thank you for having me up here. I'm grateful to speak and difficult to go after some of these heartfelt stories. My name is Marcus Capone. I am a retired Navy SEAL, medically retired. Served in multiple tours in both Afghanistan and Iraq, as Brian already mentioned. And as he already also mentioned, I am the founder, along with my wife, who's here, Veterans Exploring Treatment Solutions, VETS, 501c3, providing life-saving support to other special operations veterans who are facing a number of challenges following 20 years of sustained combat. Upon my retirement from Naval Special Warfare, I found myself facing a host of challenges that became growingly complex. I was also prescribed antidepressants, 10 total prescriptions from 2010 to 2017. I was on them continuously. After trying a number of other interventions, traditional approaches to medicine, I took a leap of faith, like everyone you've heard here today, in traveling outside the U.S. for ibogaine therapy in 2017. Practically overnight, I felt immense relief and a searing conviction to pay this opportunity forward. to other veterans returning home from service. In doing so, my wife and I founded Vets, and from that weekend in 2017, I also haven't needed to touch a prescription medicine. It's going. Common theme here, huh? Hey, you. In the years since, Vets has provided funding for closing in now 1,000 veterans to travel abroad, again, abroad, for the same lifeline. Many of these individuals are seeking relief from years of opioid use due to injuries sustained on the battlefield. While it is impossible to share the volume and scope of these stories with you, here's just one that I'd like to share from a grant recipient in our program. I'm a medically retired Navy SEAL. I served 2 tours in Afghanistan. On my second deployment, I was injured by a rocket-propelled grenade. Eventually, I was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder and traumatic brain injury. The most challenging symptoms were migraines, insomnia, and memory loss. Ultimately, the Navy could not sustain my required care, and I could not work due to pain and opioid intoxication. Medical retirement followed shortly after. The pain associated with my injuries was debilitating, oftentimes requiring 4 to 8 opioids per day to provide any semblance of relief. During this time, I barely left my house, and I could not drive a vehicle. My condition rapidly deteriorated, only made worse by the loss of my profession and the Naval Special Warfare community. Approximately 4 years ago, I began hearing stories of friends and former teammates who were traveling outside of the United States for ibogaine treatment. It took me a couple years to commit, but eventually I found myself seeking this treatment also. Ibogaine therapy saved my life and saved my family. Since the treatment, I am off of all pharmaceuticals, including opioids. I sleep without medication and do not need to use my nerve stimulator, which I used to run 24/7 for several years straight. There is no more powerful tool for the treatment of a number of the most challenging conditions so many of us are facing, including opioid dependence. Again, that was from a grant recipient that went through our program at Vets, who utilized the same drug, ibogaine. Also happens to be a very close friend and a fellow teammate. In conclusion, my training, our training, taught us the value of unconventional thinking, and we have seen the life-saving benefit of doing so in fighting this new battle. I applaud the state of Kentucky and Attorney General Cameron for this bold and unconventional show of leadership and resolve in fighting the opioid epidemic for all Kentuckians. And of course, Brian, we thank you because you are the glue and you put all this together. And Amber and I are grateful just to be part of your team. It is our hope and prayer that the citizens of this state will receive the same relief and healing that so many of my fellow teammates and veterans have to date. Ibogaine has incredible potential in resolving addictions, addressing traumas, and impacting generations to come by doing so. We stand by you every step of the way. Thank you.
Our last speaker of the day is Ms. Susan Osterman. Susan is the founder and president of the Valoma Memorial Foundation, which provides community and support for parents grieving the loss of children related to substance use, as well as retreats for all bereaved mothers. It is through her foundation and advocacy work that she honors the life and memory of her son Tyler each and every day. Please welcome Ms. Susan Osterman.
Good morning, afternoon, I'm not sure. Viloma is a Sanskrit word that means out of natural order, and it's used to describe a parent who's lost a child. Because it is not natural. I'd like to tell you a little bit about Tyler first. Tyler loved music. His father was a percussionist in the Marine Corps band, and he was following his footsteps, playing in the drumline in the high school marching band. That was one part of Tyler, but he fought a silent battle of anxiety. As immature as parts of Tyler was, he was also wise beyond his years. Even as a young child, he was able to look past people's bad behavior and see that it was pain that caused it. He felt everyone's pain. Tyler began experimenting with substances after high school to help with his anxiety. But thanks to the flood of opioids, it wasn't long before he was injecting heroin and illicit fentanyl. But as true with most people, he didn't use drugs to be high or escape his responsibilities. The shame was all consuming. But we were not equipped with the tools that we needed to help him. He received treatment on over 15 different occasions, inpatient, outpatient, Suboxone. But he said that the Suboxone made him feel spiritually disconnected. I learned about ibogaine from a friend, a physician, in early 2020. As any parent with a child who has a life-threatening condition, I dove into research. It would cost about $10,000, and I was hesitant to leave the country, but it had a far better success rate than anything currently available. And he was excited. But then the pandemic struck, and we were unable to renew his passport. Soon after, he developed endocarditis, required open heart surgery, and that precluded him from safely receiving ibogaine. On October 5th, 2020, we sat in my yard. He spoke from the heart. He asked for my help. He told me he gets no pleasure from using. There was no high. He explained so clearly how the cravings overpowered everything, his thoughts, decisions, morals. But I heard him this time. I finally understood what he was telling me for those years. Opioid addiction had taken his free will. It was one of the best conversations we ever had, and we walked away with hope. We made plans to start fresh in the morning, looking into other options out west. And then before he went to bed, he walked to the corner store. When he didn't return after 30 minutes, I went to look for him, but it was too late. I arrived just after the paramedics to find my son lifeless on the bathroom floor. I applaud the Attorney General and Mr. Hubbard for taking this step. It shows me that Kentucky has the leaders that aren't comfortable with this tremendous loss of life. We're losing thousands of precious lives like Tyler. I want to also thank my friends General Steele, Brett Waters, and everyone at the Veterans Mental Health Leadership Coalition, and all of you for sharing your stories. Tyler wanted so badly to make his family proud. I couldn't be prouder of him. He was the kindest person I ever met. I miss him every day. Happy birthday, buddy. Thank you.
I would like to thank each individual who is on this stage, as well as those who support, made their presence here today possible. It has been an effort they have undertaken at no small expense or inconvenience. And you and your colleagues' presence here for our people in Kentucky will be forever remembered, and we will be forever grateful for you being here for us today. Over the coming months, the Commission will explore the possibility of devoting no less than $42 million over the next 6 years to the creation of public-private partnerships which can incubate, support, and drive the development of Abatement all the way through the FDA approval process. Kentucky will also seek to develop the platinum standard model for an Ibogaine recovery protocol by hosting multi-site clinical trials right here at home. We must overcome the opioid epidemic by any and all humanitarian means necessary. Our history demands it. Kentucky's name, which means the land of tomorrow, was conferred by the native peoples who lived here for centuries before the arrival of the first non-indigenous settlers. Following trails blazed by Dr. Thomas Walker and Daniel Boone, dispossessed Scots-Irish indentured servants and their descendants began settling in the vast, untamed mountain forest of eastern Kentucky. They had toiled alongside their enslaved black brothers and sisters on the plantations of the Tidewater South, with the distinct advantages of skin color and the legal right to obtain their freedom at the expiration of their indenture. Enslaved individuals of African descent soon followed in the bonds of the antebellum aristocracy, which established its presence and influence here. They obtained their freedom in December of 1865, 8 months after Appomattox and 6 months after Juneteenth. In the 1870s, speculators from the Northeast arrived in the mountains and began the acquisition of vast underground coal reserves with the use of the broad form deed on an unsuspecting, illiterate peasantry. Amid these circumstances, an extractive power structure arose and enthroned itself on the backs of our ancestors. For the better part of a century, it proceeded to impose and perpetuate the political, economic, and spiritual subjugation of Kentuckians for generations. These are the visceral roots of our current afflictions. The redemptive beauty of West Africa helping heal Eastern Kentucky and the West End of Louisville together illuminates the racial unity we must have if we are to prevail. Racial unity which recognizes and exalts our kinship as images of an eternal creator whose essence is almighty, unconditional, unlimited love for all of us. The Christian Bible's New Testament book of Matthew declares that the last shall be first, and the first last. For many may be called, but few chosen. May God give us the strength, wisdom, and determination to be among the few. Thank you. God bless you. And God bless the Commonwealth of Kentucky.